Hi, welcome to the Building Blocks of Bass. My name is Bob DeBoo. Wait for some people to come on in. Um, as we're doing that, I'm just going to warm up a little bit. So we're going to be playing, we're going to work on turning a melody into a solo today. Hey, I see we got a couple people in. How's it going? My name is Bob DeBoo. Glad you're here with us today. It's the Building Blocks of Bass. Always a pleasure to be here. Really glad to get to talk about some bass and interact with real people online, far away, and close by, I think. But yeah, so I forget how many we've been, what number we're up to now. But I think we're shy of 10 still. But we've been doing this for a little while, so really glad that you joined us. So last week we talked about working on All of Me and learning tunes by their numerical progression, right? Which really helps us to move into different keys, and I think really helps us to retain the tune itself. So once we take that, once you get really a strong idea of what the chord progression is, start bouncing around into different keys, then it really can open up your ideas and your ears towards how these tunes are built. So wanted to say, hey, I know Cody Henry is hopefully coming through with his sousaphone. We need to have Cody on this show sometime, that's for sure. Hey Joyce, how's it going? Good to see you. Hey Derek, hello. So, okay, so I'm seeing a little bit of comments. Hey there. Sean Simon, what's up, sir? Hey, good to see you. So Sean's in the boot camp with the Your Sound is Your Signature boot camp, which also, by the way, everybody go check out Christian McBride's new course with Open Studio. Your Sound is Your Signature. Fantastic course, taught by a living legend of the bass, so Christian McBride. So it's fantastic. I've been waiting for the subject matter like this. More solos, please. Excellent. So that's what we're getting into today for sure. Excellent. So these sessions are the building blocks of bass. What's up, Mark? How you doing? Another Your Sound is Your Signature bootcamp friend. Good to see you, Mark. Glad you're here. Makes me feel really good to see people on the other side. All I see is myself. Oh, that's Open Studio. What's up, Jenny? Hey, hey. Cool. So, as promised, today we're going to talk about some simplistic, fundamental, like solo ideas, right? And this is not necessarily a building block of bass, but it was requested and it sounded like fun, so I was like, we need to do that, of course. This was requested by my buddy Jim over in the UK, who's going to have to watch this later, but shout out to Jim. This is by his request. So we're going to take All of Me. And last week I said we got into the numerical chord progression, what I like to call the root movement melody, right? So if we can hear that and play that and put that into different keys, we stand a really good chance of retaining it. And when we get on the gig, with the singer or somebody that wants to play a song that we think we know in a different key, it really helps us to have that, that underlying that functionality. So we're going to do All of Me, and what I want to do today is check out the first 8 bars of the melody. So if you've got your basses out, if you got whatever instrument you're with, make sure we can do this, okay? So let's shed this just for a little bit. I'm going to throw on my metronome. It's at 72, so if you can hear that, just practice along with the metronome, or you could mute and play with your own metronome, but that'll work too. So let me just, I've got a disclaimer on the phrasing of this melody. This is just for reference. Okay, there's a million different ways that people have played this melody. You have to make it your own, and we're going to talk about that today. How to make this melody into a solo by rephrasing, embellishing upon melodic ideas, using the rhythms from this melody. But first, we have to get this melody in our ears and under our fingers. So let's try it, okay? And if you don't like seeing it on the screen like this, I don't blame you. You can go to my Facebook group, the Building Blocks of Bass Facebook group, and I have the JPEGs of all of the sheets that we're using today. They're up there. So if you want to get those, and you can always go after, I just leave them up there. But I usually try to put them up before we do these sessions too. So if you don't like seeing this, then you can do it that way. All right, so let's just play through this, try to get it under our fingers and in our ears. You try it with me? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're just going to loop this, okay? Do it again. So that's a C major triad. That's an E major triad, right? Now, ostensibly, that last, what's that? The sixth bar is potentially the trickiest. Just harmonic-wise, it's got the most information. Let's talk about like how the melody is put together first, really quick, okay? The melody we have here, we've got a C major triad, just descending 1, 5, 3. 1, 5, 3. Right? So a first inversion triad. 1, now that's an E major triad. You could think about it numerically like 7, sharp 6, 3, if you were so inclined. I like to think about that as just, it's a major triad based off the third. So it's kind of shifting. We kind of bounced into another key really quick. We get to the A7, and you can still think about this as C major. It's 6, 5, 3. So if we do all of that, root 5, 3, root 2, root E major triad, descending 6, 5, 3. Now here, I break this part down. It's a half step leading into the third, do, do, a half step above the sixth, 5, 4. Okay? So I'm going to take this melody off now so we can actually see what's going on. Please leave any comments too, ask any questions. I'm going to address all of those at the end of the practice session. But let's try to do this melody again ourselves. And I'm going to show you how we can turn this into a solo, okay? So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do it again. Now I'm already rephrasing it. Okay, so now I already did kind of what I was going to lead towards, and that's a rhythmic rephrasing of the melody. Okay? Now, I'm just going to practice this a little bit. This is something you can do on your own too. Once we get the information, the melody, especially if you know the lyrics too, it can really help you to have a good, solid foundation of this. But you can rephrase this maybe like a big band like horn section would do. I think that's really common. Or if you listen to Count Basie's version, how he phrases the melody and changes around some of the rhythm. Going to recordings is super key for all of this. And I put up some good recordings to check out, especially for bass players last week. But I'm going to shed this a few times through. And again, we're just doing the first 8 bars. You want to do this to everything, the whole melody. But we're just trying to, I like to pare down what it is that we're working on, right? Take, small bites and thoroughly chew them, so we don't get overwhelmed. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I'm just phrasing it differently. Right? So here the melody is still there, right? But now I'm turning it, I'm making it more my own, like a singer might, or like a musician would, right? So here is an example that I have that I wrote out just to check out for reference. Let's play this together. So if you have the chart up, that's great. If you can see it on the screen, play it with me. So it's the same note order, it's the same melody, it's just rhythmically rephrased, okay? So that just means that we're playing around with the rhythm of the melody. Let's try it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Right? So we just kind of shifted. We're still playing the melody. And I got to say, too, this is something you hear great soloists do, is to really play the melody in their solos. Mr. Young, Dexter, he'll play a bunch of different melodies. Dexter Gordon will put a bunch of different melodies in his solo. But this is definitely part of the history of jazz improvisation, too, is integrating the melody into your solo, building your solo off the melody. So that's why this is super important. So here's another concept I want to talk about, and that's using the rhythm of the melody, the rhythm and the phrasing of the melody, but just with different notes. Okay? So by doing this, the listener is hopefully, and we are hopefully hearing the melody in a rhythmic sense, which is also very important. But now we've changed the notes that we're using. And you can do this with whatever, but I'm trying to be very specific with playing notes that are in the chords that I'm playing, or the chords of the moment, however you want to say that. So I'm starting on the third here. When the chord changes to E7, well, I'm dropping on the D right there, the seventh of the chord. You see when I go to the A down there, it's the third, right? So very important for referencing the sound of the chord. So let's check this out. Play this along with me. And again, if you would rather have the sheet music, you can go to the Facebook group, Building Blocks of Bass. You can find a link down below. And we also cover some of stuff like this in Christian McBride's Your Sound is Your Signature course. So go check that out in Open Studio. Check the links down below. And really quick, I'm excited to say that I just recorded a course for Open Studio that they said it's okay to talk about today. So just yesterday, my buddy Andrew and I recorded a course called The Building Blocks of Bass, and we get into a lot of these type of discussions and talk about really getting into the bass for people that are newer to the bass, or maybe been playing a couple years and just have a different perspective on it. So I'm excited about that. More to come on that, okay? But without further ado, let's try this using the rhythm and phrasing of the melody with different notes. Okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try this again. So you can hopefully hear the harmony. And even this you could rephrase. Right? So for me, that's really like a vocal type of thing that you could do. Let's just try playing along with that. The idea is to hit the rhythmic information from the melody, and just make it your own with some of the notes that fit mainly in C major. The big notes that change, especially in this tune, is hitting that G sharp on the E, right? And the C sharp on the A7. And then when you get to the D minor, that's still C major, basically. But to really hit the qualities of those chords can help your the solo ideas make a lot of sense, okay? So I'm just going to try improvising. This is the first 8 bars, using the melody as my rhythmic guide. Let's try it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So, it's maybe that was a little bit more soloistic than I was trying to do with the, but I was still thinking of the melody, and so that's key, right? So one other concept that I wanted to get into, and this is a really crucial concept to have under your fingers and just an understanding, and that's using guide tones. Okay, so just guide tones really quick. Guide tones are they help with voice leading. Do you know what I mean? So a pianist will use guide tones to make things not sound all jagged and to move all over the place. Like if I was going from G, this G here, to maybe the G sharp up there, it wouldn't have the same kind of like close flow to it. So guide tones specifically that I have written here, and you can do this a few different ways, but here's just the example that I have provided. So over the C chord, hitting E. Why the guide tones are important is that you can build your solos. The phrasings can start with these guide tones and sound like you're really addressing the chord, and it'll have a cohesion to it. Okay, so just playing the guide tones together. Here's C and the E. Now this E, will move down to D, which is the seventh of E7. And then that D will move down to C sharp of A. Hear how it sounds pretty, right? These are chords. And then the C sharp will move to D, the seventh of the D minor chord, which is also the root of the key that we're in, right? So if I'm gonna maybe work on soloing that way, you remember those chord tones the guide tones that I just had up there? So let's practice shedding over that, really thinking about those guide tones now, okay? E, D, C sharp, and then C. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Sorry about my singing. Okay, so that's at least a good jumping off point to think about. It's going to work really well. And even when I'm playing solo, of course, like we're doing this, or I'm at least doing this without a pianist, without a guitar player to help me out with the chords. So when I'm playing solo, and this is whether you're with a band or actually playing solo, address the chord changes. You know what I mean? And referencing the melody is always going to help you because that melody is written with those chord changes in mind. So if you have that melody in your mind, along with the guide tones, then you're going to play stuff that's going to fit over the chords and sound really, melodic, pretty, and hopefully, hopefully that's a good way to build from that. So I wrote out as well. Here's a phrase. Here's a phrase over those 8 bars, using those guide tones as a starting point and an ending point. So on the C chord, I'm going to start on E, and then I'm trying to get to D by the E7 chord, right? You see further down, I'm trying to hit C sharp for the A7 chord, and then when I get to the D minor chord, I'm hitting a C natural, right? Play this with me. Let's try this out, and then we can get this under our fingers, and maybe we can play with this a little bit more to get that idea happening. Okay? So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. 1. So let's try it again. 1. So play with this a little bit. this is all going well for you. Please leave some comments, ask some questions. I'm going to hit all those once we work through a little bit more of this material, okay? And again, big time shout out to Open Studio. Check out their new Christian McBride course, Your Sound is Your Signature. I'm talking about it a lot. It's just fantastic. So I've watched it probably like 10 times by now. A lot of great information in there. Some great back and forth with Christian and Carl Allen. And keep your eyes peeled too. I've got my own Building Blocks of Bass course coming out in the near future. So please keep your eyes peeled for that. More info is coming. All right, so here is another concept that I had in mind. Did we already do this one? No, we didn't do this one. So here's the first 8 bars. We kind of did this a little bit, but I didn't talk about it. So here's the first 8 bars with melodic embellishments. And I want to talk, oh, I misspelled embellishments. There you go, Bob. Ding, 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 ding. Sorry, it's a one-man show on that front. No spell check in Sibelius, I guess. So anyways, so the first 8 bars with melodic embellishments. So what does that mean? To me, that means I'm using some of the scale that's associated, but I'm still trying to play the melody. So if we look here, you can see the melody is embedded in this. So I'm just adding a little bit rhythmically. I'm like rephrasing the melody rhythmically, but then I'm also adding in a little extra notes just to give the melody a little bit more character or personalization the way that my ear hears it. So let's play this, and we can talk a little bit more about it too. So this is pretty close to the actual, well, it's pretty close to the melody. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. So it's like the melody. So the idea with that is that I'm really trying to play the melody and add in some extra things to it, right? The melody is embedded into my solo. And you might notice too, I'm not worried about this area of the bass right now. You can say a lot down here, the real bass area of the bass. Especially if you're just getting started. This is the first 8 bars of a solo. You do want to think about your register. Of course, if you do the whole solo and it's down here, within 1.5 octaves, that might, you might want to explore a little bit higher in the range, but you don't need to when we're doing stuff like this. We're talking about the concepts to like build a solo, right? So really getting the fundamentals of this down is really crucial. And again, it all comes from the melody. So know the melody, learn the whole melody, and C, of course, learn the whole melody, be able to do it in any key, and use these concepts for the whole thing. We're just focusing on the first 8 bars to really get that under our fingers, right? Okay, so I've got one more thing that I wanted to show up here. And again, all of these worksheet materials or transcriptions, whatever you want to call them, are on my Bob DeBoo's Building Blocks of Bass Facebook group. Man, that's a mouthful. I should have come up with a different name than that. But anyways, the link is below. You can go check that out, and you can always rewatch this video, please. And subscribe to Open Studio, like this video, tell your friends about this, because we'd like to talk about bass. I want people to see it. Okay, so find ways to fit the melody into more soloistic ideas. This is kind of like what we were talking about again, just a different idea. So if we look at it, that almost sounds like Don't Get Around much anymore. But anyways, that was the beginning phrase that I have written here, and it's based around the scale. It's using an enclosure, which is a fancy word for saying I'm trying to get to this note by using scale notes that are just around it, right? So if I'm trying to get to C, that means I'm playing D, B, C, right? I'm trying to get to that E, so the F is right next door to it. Maybe another way to say that would be D, B, D, C, G, E flat, E, because that's another enclosure. The idea here is to get to your goals, right? So C, G, E, right? So if I'm thinking like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's maybe a way to do it. That's a worse way to do it, but valid. That's it, just the idea of keeping that melody involved. Let's play through this, see if it makes you think of anything. Give me some ideas to talk about. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. I like this one. So it sounds to me kind of like a big band, like a horn, like a sax line, like a unison line. It's the melody is built into there. It sounds like a really clear solo, and that's the idea. We want to be able to do this. Clarity when we're taking a solo. Singing along with this can really help you too. You probably have heard my terrible singing along with the bass, but it's something that really helps you to stay honest with what it is you're trying to play. Of course, you can say a lot of really cool stuff and really interesting things on the bass without actually singing it or hearing it. You can conceptualize stuff, but it's also very important to be able to sing what it is you're playing. So practice singing along with your scales, practice singing the melody along when you play this, and it'll really get ingrained in a different way. Let's try playing this again, okay? So again, trying to think like we're playing bass here, but I like to think about this as like being like a sax player, or being like how a pianist would play, or trumpet, any instrument, not just a bass solo where we're walking, which is also very cool, But I'm trying to think more like a horn player here. Let's check it out. Let's do it again. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Let's do it again. So a lot of this, as I'm playing through it now, we can see some of the approaches. There's more approaches that are happening down here. As I'm getting to this E, that's the 5th, and then I'm arpeggiating the chord. I'm playing 5, 7, 3, 5, root, 5, 7. And that 7 is leading really nicely to the 3rd. That's going back to our guide tones, right? So that's influencing that. Now I'm trying to get to that C sharp. So if you look way over here, that C natural is leading into the C sharp to outline my A7, right? So from here. Here's the melody. Right? So inside of all of this, if you didn't know I was playing all of me, if you just walked in and I was taking a solo, if I played something like this, and if you're fairly familiar with harmony on this tune, you would know that I'm either referencing the all of me melody or playing the changes to all of me, right? So that's a really important thing to do. And of course you want to do this, like I said, with the whole song. So I'm going to shed that through really quick before I hop into the comments and the questions. I'm just going to play the whole tune, soloing, and think about that. I'm probably first going to go through, just play the melody, so I get the whole melody in my ears. Again, the chart that I have written up is on the Facebook group, so go there, join the Facebook group, and you can download those charts to play along with. But so let's do it, okay? I'm going to keep everything in this register too, okay? I'm not worried about thumb position right now. That might be another topic another day, but I'll stop talking, we're going to do it. So I'm going to play the melody, I'm going to take a simple solo, and I'm going to try to integrate the melody into my solo. Alright, so hopefully it goes well. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Anyways, so I, of course, always have more shading to do on that. But that was fun. Thanks for indulging me, letting me take a little solo there. And again, it's all based around the melody. As much as you can get that melody in your ear, under your fingers, and play with that, just start embellishing that. So, repetition. Repeat that melody a bunch. Make it your own. Then start to mess with it. Before you know it, you're soloing, and everything feels like it fits the song. This gets away really quickly from playing licks. You know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of licks. I did something like that. That was a lick, you know? I was hearing that, but still, it's not so much from the melody, right? So, all right, I'm going to head on over to the comments. If you're still watching, please feel free to ask any questions or make any nice comments. My daughter back there laughed. That's funny. Milo, what's up? First time joining one of these sessions. Super excited. Hey, glad you're here. Hope you found something useful. Been waiting. Oh, we might have hit some of these before. Yeah, because I see Mark. Hi from LA. Oh, Alexandra, what's up? She just joined the Facebook group. Glad you joined us today. I put the chart up on the group page too. All right. So beat you to the punch on that one. She was asking about the triads, one of our very first guided practice sessions. So, yeah, very cool. Hey, Jen, you made it. Hope your gig went well. You let me know that you were coming from a gig, so I think it's kind of it's a little late out there, isn't it? So, I hope your gig went well. Glad to see you. Hopefully, and please, man. So Jim is the cat that asked about this. He was like, how can you take get into a simplistic solo, or really clear. When I hear simplistic, I mean, that doesn't mean, I don't have a negative connotation with that at all. Do you know what I mean? When I hear simplistic, I mean, like, I hear clarity, I hear, something that people can latch onto. And especially as bass players, we want to be as clear and just like vocal as possible, right? So actually, one thing came up that I didn't mention is how we were articulating and playing all of this stuff in these solo ideas is very important. Do you know what I mean? Because if we were going through and doing something like this, and I know you already know this, but I need to say this, okay? Is that if I did all of me, why not take all of me? Right? This is why is that boring? For a bunch of reasons. Rhythmically, there's not a lot of like swing or vocal type of. It's almost like I was reading that in my head. You agree? There was also a huge lack of any articulation or personality to it, right? So if I was to go back and play this melody again, so I put a little bit more, not just rhythmic, but my articulation. I'm trying to think of it differently. That, there was more articulation in there, a little bit more colorization, to the notes, right? So I think that's important. But what's up, Jim? Glad you're here. So Judy, she just gave me some ideas for showing my singers how to improvise. What? Cool. That's great. I like that. That's a really high compliment for a singer, to say that to a bass player. Hopefully that's, that's really cool. Thank you for that comment, Judy. Please, if you have any comments for me, how can I get better? I want to hear them. So, Jim, sounds really melodic. Love it. Excellent. Again, that's the idea for me, is to go to clarity. Transcribing vocalists. I mean, I've absolutely transcribed vocalists playing melodies and then some scat solos as well. What's more honest? What's more genuine than that? Like Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan. That's what's up to me. Hearing somebody like Lester Young, who's clearly singing what he's playing through the horn. I want to be able to do that on the bass, to that clarity. Excellent. So, great to give insights to the vocalists. Oh, we got Viewer from Mexico, what's up, Gustavo? Glad you're here. Hope you got something useful out of this. Music, my pleasure. Hey, from France, another great lesson. Good to see you again. Repeat viewer, I love it. Okay, all right, here's Judy again. I want to see what she's saying. Yes, instrumentalists have a well-structured way of showing something. The problem with singers is that many do not have any knowledge of notes or reading music. Ah, cool. Okay, so yeah, so with okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. I think the reverse is, of course, what happens with instrumentalists, right? We learn this is a C major scale. We learn it with our fingers, right? But we learn it less. At least I wasn't privy to that like type of practice of thinking about like singing, hearing as much of what I'm playing, as opposed to, okay, this is where you put your fingers down. There's such a physical aspect to the bass and any instrument, of course, piano, guitar, every instrument. There's physical technicalities, that you have to deal with. Um, so I think it kind of it's reversed. So it's meet in the middle, right? So I love it. Thank you, Judy. I really appreciate that. Do you think it's possible to teach singers? Okay, here's a good question. Judy again. And she corrected it. Oops, without. Do you think it's possible to teach singers how to improvise without the knowledge of reading music or theory? I personally do. I think for all of this, and that's a great question, Judy. Thank you. I feel like, I've played with great musicians that don't really know about, like they're not great readers. A lot of it's from ears, so playing along with recordings, transcribing, and by that I don't mean like writing everything out, but transcribing and being able to hear and understand what it is you're hearing and then put that to the instrument. I think that's I think that's where it's at. Theory, I think, can help. I think theory and understanding how everything is put together in a codified way, like theory, I can help. It helps me at least to get a picture, especially with things that I'm not familiar with, like if there was or like that I was less familiar with. You know what I mean? More obscure type of sounds, like understanding what initially like what diminished harmony sounded like, or altered scale harmony, things like a little bit more complex than that. But I think everybody would do well just to know at least a little bit of theory, on how things are built, especially maybe coming from singers. And I don't want to like wax too much on this, but from a singer's perspective, or from a bass player's perspective, it's good to know what the drummer is doing. It's good for me to know what the pianist is doing as well as I can. It's good for me to know what the sax player is doing, and it's of course good for me to know what the singer is doing and what the singer wants, right? And what the singer needs, from my perspective. So my point being that I think singers really should have a good understanding of what the bass player is doing. That way you can clearly say what it is you want. Do you know what I mean? Have an understanding of what the pianist needs from you or what you want from the pianist, right? Say, no, that's not my key. That is the sign of a well-trained listening singer. So for me, that's an important thing. Yeah. Yes, fundamentals is crucial. Knowing the melody is paramount. Absolutely. And so back to the point, a lot of times us as instrumental improvisation, learning improvisation, we go straight to the chord. Like, oh, okay, here's a C major chord. I can do this. You know what I mean? Like all that was C-ish, right? And maybe that's cool in the moment. Maybe that's what you're hearing, but not as honest. It's not as genuine, right? So, yeah. So cool. I like this. This is probably my favorite. Oh, I just lost where I was at. A lot of comments today. It's very cool. I like this comment. This is great. Bob. Oh, I want to see this. Okay. Judy's on it today. I love all this. Thank you. Rufus Reed said to me once in a workshop when I was improvising just using my ear that it's the same as flying with a blindfold. Whoa. If Rufus says that, that's a great quote. I like that. Really like that. I think knowing the song, I think if you know the song though, if you've listened to it a bunch, you're not flying blind. I don't think. You know, if you've listened to the song and listened to the classic recordings a bunch, I think not knowing the chord changes even, I think maybe you're still doing it by ear, but I think that you have a good knowledge of it still, or you can, depending on how actively you're listening and how well you're investigating what it is you're hearing. If you're passively listening to it, you know, if you have it on, like, you know, whatever, washing dishes or whatever, and you're not really paying attention, yeah, you know, you probably would be flying blind. So, yeah. Okay. Chris. Hey, what's up, Chris? Welcome back. Good to see you again. Hey, Bob, another Monday already. Yeah, tell me about it, man. Feels like we were just here. Where are you drawing your rhythmic ideas from? From my ear, you know, from some of it, like I expressed with the examples there, is from the melody itself. You know what I mean? Some of it is thinking, you know, like I'm thinking syncopated, you know, like like not always starting phrases on the downbeats of one. You know what I mean? Not always starting my phrases, and there's just so much we could talk about with soloing. It's an endless conversation, but not starting my phrases on always the same part of the rhythm. And rhythm is huge, so I'm really glad you asked that, Chris. Thinking of like maybe starting my phrases on upbeats and leading into measures as opposed to starting, you know, after the measure's already begun. Like for instance, if I was to do this, like I'll just walk through the changes and then I'll try to say what I'm saying. 2, 3, 4. So this is C major, E7, right? A7, D minor 7. So what I mean is this. To me, you know, I was trying to start every phrase on the beat too, and I was trying to be really particular like that. I do like to practice very specific things, and honestly, that was kind of fun to do. But if I took my whole solo and played every phrase starting on beat 2 and went into eighth notes, then I would be, I don't know, yeah, you know, if that's what you're hearing, that's cool. But okay, so here's a great tip. Record yourself and listen back. Okay, so if you record yourself and listen back, you're going to get a really honest idea of what your rhythm sounds like and how you maybe what to keep, right? Don't beat yourself up when you listen back. Super hard still for me, to listen back. But know what you want to like cut out of your playing or how you can maybe rethink some things. Okay, so especially with rhythms, especially with note choices, and big time with your sound and your touch. So again, the articulation, playing notes legato, short, accents, where you're starting your phrases, rhythms, all of that is just as big as note choices, if not more, right? So, cool. Hopefully that was what you're into, Chris. I kind of just like talked a bunch, so. Yeah. Nomad. I'm playing piano, but I have a problem playing bass lines. Any thoughts? Yeah, for sure. Check out my previous guided practice session where we talk about walking bass lines. Got some ideas there for you to draw from, perhaps. I also have a course coming out on Open Studio very soon called The Building Blocks of Bass, where I talk about how to build bass lines, right? And just some really key core concepts. But the thing that you can start doing today, before the course is available, is to start transcribing bass lines. Find something middle of the road, like find Ray Brown on, like something on Night Train, like I always go to that, or transcribe some Count Basie, some of the bass playing in Basie band. There's a lot that you can get directly from the source, from the recordings. So, but basically the idea is, to get started on beat 1, hit the root. On beats 2, 3, and 4, make it clear where you're heading. Make it clear, like for the rest of the band, or for yourself if you're playing solo piano, make it real clear, like where you're heading to. Try not to get too, like big intervals. Try to keep it more connected. So, hopefully that helps. Okay, Sean, does your concept of soloing change with the absence of a walking bass line? Dude, I enjoy transcribing horn players, but it feels like it doesn't sound right without it. Huh. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Sean, we're bass players. And unless we ask the pianist to play a walking bass line, unless we find Nomad to come play some walking bass lines on the piano for us when we're jamming, then that's pretty much our world. You know what I mean? I think I think I'm always just used to soloing without a bass line underneath me, but I am hearing the root movement basically when I'm soloing. So I'm not hearing a walking line underneath what I'm doing. A lot of times I'll try to, if I'm simply playing solo without anybody else, I will try to imagine hearing a drummer play along with me and thinking drum wise too, like thinking rhythmically, like interaction. Um, that can really help, especially with the rhythm. But yeah, when you're transcribing horn players, but it feels like it doesn't sound right without it. Give me advice. I don't know. I don't know if I have advice for that, but I would say, I would say that we need to, and this is any instrument, by the way, singers, pianists, anybody, drummers, whatever. You need to be able to solo and do it on your own, clearly outlining the sound, the melody, like we're talking about, clearly outlining the chord changes, keeping good time. You know what I mean? Like being really clear with your rhythm. All of that plays into being a good solo. If you can do that by yourself or with metronome going or loop, drum loop or whatever, but by yourself, then it's going to sound good when you're with other people, right? So, Sean, if you're taking those horn solos and putting them on the bass, sure, it can sound different, especially if it's not being played on a bass initially. But I think hopefully that helped. Okay, so Chris, really easy to hear the harmony even when you're soloing without accompaniment. Cool, thank you. That's my goal. So hearing the guide tones, hearing the melody. Remember, if you reference the melody was written with those the chord changes were written with that melody in mind. So if you're referencing the melody, you almost can't play bad notes. Does that right? Because it's written, it's the song, So, but the next step, I think, is finding those guide tones, understanding how things move in smaller increments, right? Cool. Oh, cool. Just joined from South Africa. Awesome. Welcome. Glad you're here. Yes. Okay. Okay, let's see what we're getting into here. So, George, hi from London. Hey, George. Great lessons, thank you, and insight, thank you. Would you ever consider doing a video analyzing a solo of Scott LaFaro's in reference to his unique approach as a soloist? Absolutely. Yeah, I love Scott LaFaro. There's a lot that we could get into with Scott. He's a very very special soloist, of course. Technique-wise, it may be above the purview what we're trying to do with the building blocks of bass, but we can for sure talk about his rhythm and maybe how to start approaching some of what he's doing. Especially with Scott, of course, there's a lot of arpeggios, super fast arpeggios, working up to the higher register of the bass and using triplets. His rhythm is just fantastic. So, yeah. But thank you, George. Keep your eyes peeled. We may do that sometime soon. I appreciate the request. So, here's my friend Alexandra. What's up? Thank you. Great lesson. Can you speak about how quickly you come up with what the guide tones should be? That is something that develops over time. So you could practice that. We could do a whole lesson just on that, honestly, Alexandra. You start to hear that, but it's basically you're trying to go from thirds and sevenths. How quickly you come up with what the guide tones should be, you start to see it in the harmony. And this is probably something that I'll address in a future guided practice session. But it's basically, you say, I'm starting on E, of the C chord. And as I'm going to the next chord, whatever it may be, say I was going to, an F7 from there. What's the next closest note to this E of the F7? It would be the 7th of F7, right? Say if I was going to E minor, it would stay that 7th. If I'm going to A7 next, it would be C sharp. So repetition and really kind of working that through, but the point is to try to find, unlike the root movement, which can move bigger, like bigger intervals, fourths, thirds, fifths, guide tones usually move in half steps or whole steps. They can be bigger for sure, but that's kind of where to get started with that. But we can address that. That's a good one, and it really helps with bass lines too, being able to hear where those things move to. So, okay, we have a lot of comments today. I love this. If you're soloing over a modal tune, for example, Passion Dance, would you take the same approach with incorporating the melody? Kind of tricky keeping ideas fresh over one chord. For sure. First thought on that. Oh, I'm totally butchering. Mo. So I'm butchering the melody. Why can't I hear it right now? It's because I'm on the spot. But the idea, taking that shape, is to maybe move it around, right? Especially on a modal tune, you can get out pretty quickly, and that's okay. Especially if the melody that you're playing, and especially like getting out like in a modal tune, if you're playing a really strong melody and then find your way back into the correct harmony or whatever, that can really stand out. So yeah, kind of tricky keeping ideas fresh over one chord for sure. The thing to do with that, something like that, that really stands out really quick. At least to me, that's the first thing that comes to mind, Mila. So another idea is to, again, transcribe folks that are playing over this. You know, it's kind of hard to get a Joe Henderson solo on the bass. I'm not sure what instrument you're playing, but check out some of McCoy's stuff. You know, like check out some of McCoy's stuff for ideas and how that's working, and then how can we bring that to the bass, even with the technical issues that it's not as easy to play what he's playing, right? First idea. So cool. Hey, I appreciate this, Mario. Such a great and beautiful ideas, Bob. Thank you. Thank you. It's a shame you don't have bass near to practice, but I'm watching it. Good vibes. Right back at you, Mario. Hey, so these videos are always available. Come back to Open Studio's YouTube channel. Watch them again. Practice along with me. Watch it again and be like, hey, Bob totally butchered that. And then, wow, man, you made a mess of that phrase right there. Right? But come back. Join us. Cool. All right, George, Alexandra, Sean. All right, so I think we're at the end of the comments. If you're watching this post not live, please go ahead, leave a comment. Come join us at the Facebook group. I'm always checking there. Again, you can see all of the musical examples I printed up there. They're always available. And go check out Open Studio's courses, especially the Christian McBride Your Sound is Your Signature course. Beautiful. I mean, it's just amazing to be able to hear what Christian has to say about playing bass and interacting with the drummer, the great Carl Allen is in this course. It's fantastic. Also, please keep your eyes peeled for the Building Blocks of Bass course coming out in Open Studio soon. So happy practicing. See you next Monday, okay? Peace. Bye-bye.